Andrew Jackson, 7th President of the United States. He served as a general in the United States Army during the War of 1812, and his heroic actions led him to become one of the most omnipresent presidents to this day, having earned the honor of having his face on the $20 bill. However, his presidency was a bit controversial, and there is still open debate today on whether Jackson's legacy was positive or not. Hello everyone, welcome to Top 10 History, your hub for historical lists and amazing history facts. Today we're going to go over the top 10 amazing known facts about Andrew Jackson. Make sure to watch until number 1 because it's one of the most amazing facts about the 7th president that will surely surprise you. Before we begin, if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel with notifications on because we release a new historical top 10 list every single day. Also, make sure to smash that like button. Alright, let's get right into the video. He hated paper money. As previously mentioned, Jackson's role as the President of the United States caused him to be chosen among others to have his face permanently engraved on the US $20 bill. However, which is extremely ironic, he absolutely hated paper money. Not only that, his face also appeared on early drafts of the $5 bill, the $10 bill, the $50 bill, the now extinct $10,000 bill, as well as the Confederate $1,000 bill. There was a time in very early American history, following the end of the Revolutionary War, where the currency at the time, such as the Continental Dollar, suddenly became worthless. And as you can guess, the culprit was from printing money, which Americans would later learn is a terrible idea. And one of the people who suffered from the currency's plummet in value was none other than Andrew Jackson. He took a huge financial hit when his stockpile of paper notes became suddenly devalued. And he always held a grudge on the idea of paper money, and it would become part of his policy. As a result, he opposed the issuance of paper money in state and national banks, and he would much rather do the old school method of trading with gold and silver. He even closed the Second National Bank of the United States entirely because of its use and manipulation of paper money. But despite his loathing for paper money, his face would be printed on millions of copies of paper money and would sit in the back pocket of over 300 million Americans. I'm sure the former president is always turning in his grave. He had a gambling addiction. Speaking of money, Jackson's mind was unfortunately plagued by greed and his ambition to acquire more wealth, which the devaluing of his life savings may have played a small role in this ambition. Jackson gambled in many forms. He played cards, dice, horse racing, and even placed bets on cockfighting. But as a lot of people know, gambling is quite dangerous and can ruin your life, especially if you become addicted to the art. When he was a teenager, he acquired a fair amount of wealth off of his grandfather's inheritance once he passed away. On just one trip to Charleston, South Carolina, he gambled away every last dime. We just talked about Jackson spinning in his grave. I'm sure his grandfather feels the same way about what happened to his life savings. He was of Irish descent. Both of Andrew Jackson's parents were born in present-day Northern Ireland, Antrim County to be exact. In 1765, his parents along with his siblings who were already born at the time, Hugh and Robert, moved to the American colonies. They moved to the Waxhaw region, an area in between North and South Carolina, where Jackson was born. He was the first of his family to be born on American soil. He adopted 2 Native American boys. Now, I did mention before that Andrew Jackson was quite a controversial president. Part of the reason for this is that he signed the Indian Removal Act as president, which would strip many Native American tribes of their homeland and would force them to walk thousands of miles to live in reservations. He also led military campaigns against Native American tribes such as the Creeks and the Seminoles. Now, it might surprise you to learn that he actually adopted 2 Native American boys, despite harshly fighting against the entire demography of people. The reason for this was sympathy. As an orphan himself, he spotted 2 young Native American children on the battlefield whose parents had been killed by the fighting. He adopted the 2 boys, Theodore and Lincoln, and sent them back to live under the care of his wife, Rachel. Despite caring for the boys, he still showed despise for the Native American people. He said about one of the boys, "He is a savage that fortune has thrown in my hands." Both boys died of illness before Andrew Jackson was elected. He was a prisoner of war. There has never been a United States president in history that has been a prisoner of war, except for Andrew Jackson. And it happened when he was only 13 years old. During the Revolutionary War, Jackson and his brother Robert took up jobs as couriers for the colonial army. He was captured by the British in 1781 and was forced to perform labor for the British. The British officer in which he was forced into servitude for demanded that the young Andrew Jackson polish his boots. After refusing, this made the British officer furious. He drew his sword and started to mutilate and torture the young boys. It was reported that the sword cut all the way to the bone on his left hand. One of his injuries was a gash across his head that he wore as a scar for the rest of his life. Him and his brother were prisoners of war under this brutal treatment for 2 weeks before being released. His brother died shortly after from an illness that he caught during his confinement. His wife was married to another man. Andrew Jackson's first lady was named Rachel Donaldson Roberts. However, this was not Rachel's first marriage. Rachel was married to her first husband and lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and she was rather unhappy with her first marriage. Eventually, she filed for divorce and separated from her first husband. Around the same time, Andrew Jackson had moved to Nashville and met his future bride. The two fell in love and eventually got married. However, what neither of them realized is that Rachel's divorce was yet to be finalized, so the Jacksons technically committed adultery since Andrew married an already married woman. And this is exactly the case that Rachel's soon-to-be ex-husband used against her when he accused her of adultery. This juicy gossip would resurface during the presidential campaign of 1828 when Jackson's political opponents would bring up his wife's adultery case in order to weaken his image. After Jackson was elected, Rachel died just 3 weeks later. Jackson claimed that all of the pressure and anxiety that came from the nastiness of the election directed at her led her to her grave. He was almost assassinated. Often the first case of a presidential assassination that we think about would be Abraham Lincoln's assassination following the Civil War. However, before Lincoln, there were attempts to assassinate the current sitting president, and the first ever attempted presidential assassination was targeted at none other than Andrew Jackson. On January 30th of 1985, a painter by the name of Richard Lawrence attempted to kill the president right outside of the Capitol. He despised the president and could repeatedly be heard ranting about Jackson on the days leading up to the attempted murder. Lawrence ambushed Jackson and attempted to fire at him with a pistol. To Jackson's luck, the pistol misfired. Lawrence then pulled out a second pistol and fired upon the president. That one too misfired. It was said that both pistols were in perfect condition, so the chances of 2 perfect pistols misfiring in a row was 1 in 125,000. Jackson then chased after his assassin himself and he was captured. Lawrence was tried for attempted murder but was found not guilty on grounds of insanity. He lived the rest of his life in an insane asylum. He tried to abolish the Electoral College. Jackson was unfortunately not the only president who won the popular vote but lost the election due to the Electoral College. During his time as Commander-in-Chief, Andrew Jackson was very popular among the American people. In his 3 elections, he won the popular vote all 3 times. However, in the 3rd time running for office, neither party, neither himself nor his opponent John Quincy Adams, had secured the most electoral votes. As a result, Congress turned to the House of Representatives, who ultimately brought John Quincy Adams into power. This enraged both Jackson and his supporters, who believed the election to be fraudulent and rigged against them, especially since Jackson had clearly secured the popular vote. And it also didn't help that Adams soon afterwards gave the Speaker of the House, Henry Clay, the position of Secretary of State. After this incident, Jackson repeatedly advocated to Congress the abolishment of the Electoral College, believing he had been robbed of his position. He was shot twice in the chest. Andrew Jackson was a very prideful man. Anyone who would dare insult him could face quite a terrible fate. He was very quick to challenge you to a duel if he didn't like you. In fact, historians are unsure of how many duels Jackson participated in his life. The number could be as much as 100. In one particular case, a man by the name of Charles Dickinson dared to call Jackson, quote, a worthless scoundrel, a patriot, and a coward. Jackson quickly challenged Dickinson to a duel, and the challenge even made it to the local newspaper. During the duel, Dickinson shot Jackson in the chest. The bullet just missed his heart. After being shot, Jackson just bravely stood up, aimed back, and shot Dickinson dead. And this wasn't the only time he was shot. He had a second bullet lodged in his chest from another duel. He will live the rest of his life having 2 bullets lodged in his chest. No one knows his true birthplace. Here's what we do know. Andrew Jackson was unequivocally born on March 15, 1767. However, we don't know exactly where he entered this world. We do have it between 2 states, however, North and South Carolina. Jackson was born in his uncle's home in a region known as the Waxhaws, a thick and largely unexplored wilderness. Since the area was so unknown and unexplored, the border between North and South Carolina in this area was not clearly plotted. Today, both North and South Carolina have established historical landmarks where the president was born, but to this day, no one is sure which state, if either of them at all, to believe. Did these facts shock you? Make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more amazing historical facts and much more. If you like this video, check out this next video on the top 10 facts about Lawrence of Arabia. Alright, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.